Daphne Sim, who is the speaker for tonight, our guest, and is also a very close friend of mine. And she is now based in Singapore. So tonight we're going to have a fireside chat with her on digital transformation. What is the impact? Sorry, what is the impact on your business and employees? So without me, before we start, let me tone down the music. I think the music is still running. Okay. And allow me to do a introduction of Daphne. So based in Singapore, Daphne is with more than 15 years of experience covering sales and business development in highly competitive business segments. The passion and curiosity in the technology space started when she was in the hospitality industry about a decade ago. With OTRS, her role has expanded beyond sales and also includes strategic partnerships and business management for the APAC Australasia region to date. Lived and worked on assignments in a few countries. To name a few, the mesmerizing Maldives, nature haven New Zealand, and multicultural Malaysia has contributed to the colorful moments of her life's learning path. Let us all welcome Daphne Sim.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Malcolm.
How are
Thank you
you?
for having me today. I'm good, thank you. I hope things are going well in Kuching.
Yes, things are going pretty much well, but recently in terms of the COVID situation, we had some new cluster actually, so not so good. Yeah, but overall we are good. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm excited to be here today. I'm very happy. Thanks for the invite.
It was just over our random call, and suddenly we just say, hey, why not jump on a fireside chat with you, since you are also doing you're working on something that's very interesting, that from a hospitality industry, and then now involved in the tech industry, right?
Exactly.
What
Yes.
actually are you able to introduce yourself a little bit more than what I've just read from the script?
Well, in a nutshell, it's a shift of from hospitality to tech industry. Maybe from my side, personally, that's what you mentioned. Could have probably summed up. People would have probably known me. Basically, more on understanding or believing in transformation for technology, because we believe that's the way that we would move forward for the next time. For me, being in Singapore for so many years, I think one thing that I would miss is probably the food back in Kuching.
Laksa, kolok mee,
Yes.
and of course the very laid back kind of environment, like really calm things down, but still have the pace, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's comfortable.
Comfortable. Nice to hear from you, and it's really an honor to have you on air tonight. And let's jump into the fireside chat that we arranged for tonight, right? So before we go further, are you able to share with us, like, what and who is OTRS, which is the company that you are actually working with now?
So before I start, is it okay that I share my screen?
Yeah,
Wanted to just
go ahead.
a glimpse of the company. Yeah. So I think everyone probably could see this. So OTRS, there you probably can see this, just a very quick one. We started in 2003. It's a technology company and based in Germany. So we have two offices in Germany itself. One is in Frankfurt, one is in Munich. So the picture that you see, that's the office in Frankfurt. So overall, the company, we have 6 subsidiaries around the world. So in Asia, we have 2 subsidiaries. One is in Singapore, where I'm based, and another one in Hong Kong. So for OTRS, who are we? Besides being a tech company, we are a vehicle for companies who want to go on digital transformation. So they are on a journey, so we are the vehicle for them. So that is on the tangible part. So that comes back to the topic for today, which is the transformation.
So sorry, did I
Go
interrupt
ahead.
you? Sorry. Yeah. So what is digital transformation? I mean, you mentioned about OTR as being the vehicle for digital transformation. So what is digital transformation, and how should we understand this? Or I think um, we with us tonight, maybe there's a lot of people are not so familiar with digital transformation. Are you able to share a bit of that?
Yes, I can. So, in terms of digital transformation itself, it has been around for quite some time. It's, of course, a buzzword, but then again, it is actually a journey for businesses. Now, first and foremost, it is actually helping, or it is a journey for businesses from a manual, which is they do everything on manual, to move on to digital. So, that is digitalization. So when it comes to transformation, that meant that you will have to use tool. It's part of it from an end-to-end journey. That meant it's not only having to digitalize your processes, it's more than that. You need to have documentation, you will need to digitalize your processes, the corporate culture has to be there, your people are involved, and for sure technology is involved as well. So that is in a nutshell what a digital transformation is about. So there are a lot of other, maybe you would say, phrases that people would say, which is online, the way that define it. But basically, it's pretty important of tangible and intangible. So that's the transformation itself, which is for people and the culture. And then you need to have the technology to assist you to move from one point on manual to digital. I hope that actually explains in a nutshell for you and also for the audience.
Yes, that is. I mean, it's very easy. I mean, you put it very simple to understand because I think when we talk about digital transformation, there is always like a tangible and intangible part, right? So that make a lot of. I mean, some people might find it very like it sounds complicated, but it's actually not. It's just from tangible to intangible, or how do you move things that is actually from what you can see into something that you can't see but you can experience it, right?
Yeah,
So
I can actually explain that a little bit later along the line because we'll have
right.
some touch points. Yeah, so
Oh,
that to explain a little bit on tangible and tangible, so it gets a bit of a clearer picture, which I agree with you.
ama-
Yes.
amazing on that. We think we pretty much like in sync. Okay, so so now
Good.
why do we need digital transformation, and is it for everyone? I mean, because it's a buzzword now, and I think for the past, I think since 2015 or 2014 onwards, I think the word digital transformation has been pretty much being around, right? And getting more and more normally used now, right? So why do we need digital transformation, and is it for everyone?
It is a good statement that you say it has been around for a couple of years, but we know that change, people are resistant to change. Something that they're not comfortable, they will not, or it's unfamiliar ground. It's the same for digital transformation. They think, okay, my business is running, it's fine, but then again, they've forgotten what is ahead. I have a slide that I would want to share. Now, this slide, it's about more on statistics, so probably it could help to visualize a little bit. Are you able to see the screen for this? So
Yeah.
if you see here, so this is from McKinsey. So in terms of market adaptation, we understand that there's a lot of businesses in different industry. But key point, what people want to adopt is why people do for change would be they want three drivers. One of it is revenue. They want to have a digital workforce and they want automation. You see right in the middle of the screen, you have the black little bars. You can see top tier, some of the industries which is adopting it. On the left-hand side, you will see the brands that is, well, everyone knows. Well, so happen they are clients of ours because they have done their transformation. So all these are adaptation. So a lot of businesses still are trying to struggle to get onto it. So why do we need to go on transformation? Let me stop sharing this. So there are three key pointers that we should look at. Number one is scalability. So scalability is first why we ask this question is why do we get on to business? For sure, we want to be on business. It is because we want to be able to go from local, regional to global. You want to have more revenue, you want to have more businesses. So example, there is probably manufacturing in the pepper manufacturer in Sarawak used to do business only in Kuching or in Sarawak, but eventually they wanted to grow to regional, which is probably across the border or going to Kalimantan, going to Sabah or to West Malaysia. How do they do that? If they are not on transformation or they're not on the journey, they will have to rely on the association. They will have to rely on trades, Minister of Trade or the federal government to help them. So if they want to be on a bit more independent to grow beyond their parameter, it is usually for scalability. So you can be at anywhere in the world to have your business. Brick and mortar is something that's questionable now. People can have and run their business when they are already on digital transformation, on the change itself, where they can have businesses around maybe like 30 countries, but home base maybe in Malaysia. That is how they can scale their business because you want to grow bigger. Now, there's a second point that why we should go on it is to be in the ecosystem. So the example of being in the ecosystem, it's like the startup grind. Now, a lot of startups wanted to build their own business. So they join startup grind or they join the startup company so that they can have the support. They're able to grow their business. They will have maybe be able to find their investors or angel investors. So it's the same logic behind. So in all businesses, majority we can see that they do not want to be broken in the supply chain. In order to be able to be sustainable, they have to be in the ecosystem. One example, what happened was about 4 months ago, you remember we had the pandemic, and then in Sri Lanka, they have a tea auction. Every year in tea auction, they have to be at one point with hotel book and everything is printed. And they do the old-fashioned auction of tea using numbers and everything else that they bid on the spot. But because of they need to do the auction while it was on complete lockdown for Sri Lanka, immediately within a month, you can see they completely transform to transformation. Within that, the first time in history, they were very proud. They are able to do auction online and to follow through and to have the trade ongoing. So for me, for us who is in the industry, it is a tremendous change. It is fantastic to see people react to it as quick as possible. That's quite fun to see.
Speaking of that, like
Yes.
you talk about the Sri Lanka case study, right? So I have a friend who shared with me about that there was an event. I think it's a wine tasting event or something like that, something similar, which means that you need to have a sample, right? So what they did was you sign up for it on the ticketing platform, and after that they will mail you the sample, and then they will jump on virtual to do that sampling event or sampling session. That just came across my mind when you just talk about the whole Sri Lanka that case study.
Exactly. It's the same case. I mean, similarly, because they see the importance of it. They want their business to run. So they cannot have this pandemic that breaks them down. So these people are reactive. It's great. I think it's a positive thing. The next would be to why do we have to have this is because we want freedom. When you know that when we move into transformation, you free out a lot of time to do mundane things. There's an article that was written by our board of director. She actually wrote, digital transformation means freedom. So why does it mean it's freedom for us? Because you don't need to really screen 500 emails within a day. All you need to do is it's already filtered. You're being carbon copied, CC, but you're not related to it. So why do you have to go through it? So all of this can be cut down. You don't have to go manual invoice. Your finance do not have to do it. All of the things that's manually, okay, today I have to call them, pick up the invoice and charge. So a lot of automation. We know that this will change a lot of people's life, giving freedom to them to be able to choose what they want to do with their life. I can tell you probably work 12 hours a day, Malcolm. I mean, we're all guilty, right? so, so that part it can help us free a lot of our time. Depends on what you're going to do with the time. We all have 24 hours, but we cannot be working 23 hours. So it really helps to give you the freedom.
But
and
with
your question.
but with automation, I mean, because you talk about the word automation just now, so I just have to jump into this quick one for a bit. So automation actually, it really some people will think that automation, it's like replacement. So when you adopt like digital transformation to your company or your organization, and when you have automation involved, that's where people will think like, oh, so I'm going to be replaced, right? So I also got some sharing from another person or another friend. So for example, a finance, because you need a lot of accountants or finance personnel to do a lot of manual kind of, it's like a repetition work, like day in, day out, every single day, you're doing the same thing. But now with the automation of finance processing, that the finance personnel or the accountants, they are not losing their job, but they can actually help the company to look into new business revenues, new revenue stream, or look into any kind of opportunity, business opportunity that they can develop, and in terms of calculating risk and stuff like that. So, but there is already an automated element in place, so that these few employees can have a new venture, so that it doesn't feel boring at all. So your employees will be more motivated, and they'll be like, oh, every day is always new, so they're always constantly looking for new things, venturing to new business opportunity to help the company to grow. But what their normal task, it has been in a way replaced by automation.
Exactly, you said it right. Because of the automation itself, it's filtering all the small mundane things, the little things that matters, but then it still not matter in a certain way for efficiency. So does it mean that it'll be replaced? We can actually talk about that also in replacement of headcount, or whether it will then change overall of your resource management. That will definitely impact for businesses, for sure. But the question of yours of whether it's for everybody, that question itself, a lot of people would say, no, it's not for me, it's for a bigger company or something else. Not entirely true, because I share with you one example. An 80-year-old aunt of mine, she's 80, she would tell me, Daphne, how do I download this app? Do I need this app? How do I use this mobile phone? How do I video call? To me, when she tell me this, it clicks to my mind that she is more adaptive. If she can adopt anything of technology at her age, we can. Anybody can. If they have the mindset of, okay, I want to grow, I want to learn to be in the future, that meant even a small SME, a new startup, maybe a five number of people in the company, or it can be a mature company. They can. It's time. It's whether we evolve or we don't. Yeah, it's almost for everyone.
And speaking about everyone, then who should be implementing this? I mean, when it comes to organization, right? Or maybe we speak on a very general, let's say in a very general way, that who should be implementing this? Like, there's two ways we can look at it. One is like should it be implemented by the government, or should it be implemented only in the private sector, or within the organization, who should implement that as well? So that is, I think we can look into these few areas as well.
For sure, I would see it because we get a lot of use cases, practices of how they actually come to us, and we analyze. we see that there are two ways of approaching things in terms of digital transformation. One is reactive, one is proactive. Reactive is the same that we saw, the wine, the tea, because they need to react now to be sustainable. So they would find and rumble through and see which are the pain areas, and then they start to activate that motion so that they can get into transformation. So if in terms of businesses, they would see that maybe it's their service team is always behind in terms of delivering service, it could be a department to start being reactive. Or it can be sales that's having so many inquiries and the salesperson are unable to handle. It can be a department that is challenged or require help. You can do a reactive. Now, the other approach of proactive would be people, it can start from you and I, an individual. It can be from a team who believe that they need to progress further, or it can be from management board, because always it can be the top management to say, okay, I think I want to change my corporate culture to move towards this direction. So that is proactive, but for sure it will take longer time. You need timeline plan, and there's a lot of costs. So when it comes to support, the government can support. I believe in Malaysia, you do have a lot of funding, because in Singapore, the government funds a lot in terms of transformation. Anything that wants to go on digital, there will be government grants. So maybe it's the same like for Malaysia, because you have your trade, you have your ministry, or there is an arm, a media arm to help you. So you can actually reach out to them in terms of support. But ultimately, it's a strategy of the company. The business owner, do you want to go reactive or do you want to go proactive? So they have to decide which one they want to gain first. They want to do short-term gain, and then you gain longer term, which is eventually when you do a reactive, or you plan first now for a short implementation from 6 months to 1 year, and you implement a full change for the whole of the company. So it's basically tool plus the culture itself. It comes from top down or a lateral, I would say maybe corporate governance. It depends. Yeah.
Okay. So being said what you just shared, right? So how to convince businesses to embrace digital transformation? I mean, like you said, it can be it's either a reactive or proactive ways, right? So how are we able to convince businesses to embrace digital transformation? For example, like Sarawak, for example.
Okay. So say an example, Sarawak's case, you do have support from the government. Whether people embark on it or not is another. They can go to tons and tons of grants and support and everything else. But the main key is, do they want to be convinced? If they shut their mind that they do not want to be convinced, there is no way that we can convince them. The only way is to influence. So you could actually help to influence with data. That meant capture all of the surveys, capture all of the numbers, to show to them what are the things that you could actually do. And the question of whether they want to have a work-life balance in their own company, to convince themselves, which to influence whether they want that for the whole company culture, or they want to have the change, which is conscious mindset, conscious growth mindset if they want it. Or maybe the third is they would think that maybe it's not time yet, but for them to be able to change is it's itself. If they would want to be able to just shut and say, no, I don't want that, that's not possible. So one way, another example would be, it's best if companies are resistant, give them data and also pack to a module, or maybe companies who has already done the change and you make it like maybe like an example, like a role model. So there are a lot of companies who have already done transformation. They are successful. So there can be one that they can look at and to say, okay, which strategy works and which strategy doesn't work, eliminate the one that doesn't work. So you know that that is the first step of whichever company. If they think, maybe I have an idea, but I don't know how to go about, it can be a step forward. So ultimately, we can only influence them to have a growth mindset, really, and a lot of support from the government probably, and data.
So I mean, let's not talk so much about like I mean, we're not doing comparison here, right? Because end of the day, there's no when should be implementing digital transformation or when should we not, right? So even as Singapore, we all know Singapore is quite is developed, right? It's very advanced as well. So do you have any companies in Singapore that you know that they are still not yet go adopt the whole digital transformation or automation kind of areas?
Definitely yes. It's a big yes. Despite that it is modern, there are still a lot of companies. You will be very surprised to know that one of the top few, which is, that they are not public listed, but they are massive company. They have not gone anything. I know one, I'll give you an example. So can you imagine there's a company that is doing the aero bridge for plane? You know that when you park and the aero bridge will walk across. So you need to maintain all of the aero bridge. So they tell me, we cannot do all this transformation anymore because we need to sell the aero bridge. That's what we need to do. And we are not going to change for now. My fear would be when I walk to my plane, that might collapse because you never service them and you do not know when it's supposed to change the spare parts. So there are a lot of companies still not embracing it. I wouldn't say that even in a modern or a first world country like Singapore, everybody's embracing it. Not true. There's still a lot of people with high resistance. It's the same everywhere. Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of like, at this point of time, would you want to take the first step out, or just being like, let's try it first, right? And there's no harm trying, right? But of course, some might think that if I go through a digital transformation, then it's going to cost me a lot of money, right? So what would be your take on that? Yes or no?
As in a lot of money, you mean, involved?
Yeah, like you have to invest in a lot for a whole digital transformation, and you have to like invest in either talent or invest in solutions, etc., etc.
You will need to look at
that may be something that holding them back of not going through the digital transformation.
It's probably true because some companies have got different business strategy. Some are on cost conscious, some are on efficiency conscious. They want to be able to grow. So it depends on them. So we see a lot of people who ask, is it very expensive? Not entirely true. There are still quite a lot of things that you could do in terms of your transformation itself. For sure, you will need some amount because you need to move your country from a manual to a digital. You still need a set of tools. You still need to train your team. You must be able to have that. If you want them to be able to be efficient, you must give them a proper set of that they can do their job on a normal basis, on a daily basis, and not affect the business. So in terms of costing, it really depends on the strategy of clients. Some people would go for because there are quite a lot of for one, because we are also a solution provider, we help them in transformation. There are a lot of people who come to us and say, no, we want to start really small, or we only want to do this one thing, or whichever not, and they're not ready for transformation itself. They just want to digitalize. So it's not the right platform if they just want to do from paper to just scan it and to have it online. So it's a full journey itself. It depends on your strategy at what point of time. So I think it's an open question to how much they are rather to invest. If it's in a proactive approach, plan for it. For sure, you will need some kind of investment. There's no free lunch in the world to be competitive. There's some investment that's required, definitely.
I think at this point of time, during this 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 months time during the whole COVID situation, and even now, right? I think it's also a good time to take a step back and to look into this area of digital transformation as an opportunity to, like you said, the strategy. What strategy should we plan for? Maybe we want to go for a higher end solution, and provided we already identify what are the problems that we are facing, or what are the we use problem as that gauge, like why our company can move forward, right? So we use that as like a measurement. So, and whether is our team, we have a big team, but our efficiency and our efficiency is not there, or productivity is not there, right? So there are a lot of areas that we all have to do that kind of uh, um, thinking, or to really identify, or we normally just in our industry we always call it, let's do a design thinking, right? So you do like identify, you do like it's either a 3 days or 4 days or 1 week long of like a activity that everyone come together and identifying what kind of problem, and you have all these templates and everything to put there and to look into what other things that you can do, identifying. So I think this will be the time, right? This will be the time. It's a good time, and especially now we have only we only have left like what, 4 to 5 months left for 2020. So in order to have a amazing, great start for 2021, then maybe, right, this would be a time for some of them to look into it. So the next one thing that I would like to ask is that what are the necessary skill sets to sustain in digital transformation?
The skill set, remember we talked about tangible and intangible?
Yeah.
Now, the tangible part is when you already have a tool that is ready, but you need to train your team to be able to run that. Because if you have a tool that's ready for the company to move to digital transformation, but nobody's utilizing it, you're not maximizing it, it will be a piece of furniture. You're just wasting your money on that. So then the other side, the intangible, are actually soft skills. Because to be able to transform this whole journey in the whole company itself, it is not only you have a tool, you need to be able to have it in the mindset of your team. Collaborative mindset, they have to be adaptive, always be flexible, be able to find solution or find a shorter way to, your mundane work, how to cut the time, or is it to reduce amount of response time as quicker, to reduce the number of emails, do automation, auto reporting, document it down so that you don't have to call, how do I reset my password? So these are the things that can actually help. Soft skills are often neglected. They think that it's easy to just implement a tool, but they've forgotten about the intangible. So the skill set, it's important to have the same mindset altogether. So you need all these soft skills for sure, but training, it's definitely important. So train on the tool and train on having a collaborative mindset, which you can work across department, from a BD to a service delivery guy to an operations who can deliver whatever product and services, and even back end admin. Everybody should be seamless and talking the same language. It's fairly important, actually.
Yep, I totally agree in that, especially the back end. The back end is really the most a crucial one, actually. That's the foundation, right?
Yes.
Yes. So being said that, what are the main impact of digital transformation?
You did touch a few of it at the very beginning.
Yep.
We see it as, so we want to go on the management level down, that meant in operations. We don't touch on the stakeholders above. So there's always business and employees, because employees are the one that's the backbone of your business. Yep. Then you have the business itself, how when you change it impacts. For sure, there are a few elements. I'll give you an example of the element would be, it will be more on your revenue growth that you're looking for because you want to scale, you want to be bigger. Then you would want to have your customer management, customer satisfaction. And this comes when customer management itself is because when you do transformation, you're capturing a lot of data. So the data includes your privacy, your date of birth, your credit card numbers, your home address. All these has to be captured properly. Companies will need to do a due diligence, because if it is being leaked out, there's a gap, there's a glitch, legal matters will come in. You do not want to have that. So due diligence is important. In EMEA, it is called GDPR in terms of how we handle data. Malaysia, it's PDPA or GDPR. For Malaysia, I think it's PDPA. Malaysia probably is PDPA. Singapore is PDPR. So it's privacy policy. So because you're capturing everything in your system, you'll be able to leverage to the next level, which because you manage your customers' data, then you'll be able to tell whether they're satisfied or not. Because the impact will be, if I have every touch point from the sales, I finish, I close the sales, what happened next? My admin have to do the paperwork, and then I have to deliver the product. But if there is a gap, there's nothing in here that's followed through, the client will be unhappy. Where is my product? Where is my things? I bought, I purchased, I paid, but where is it? So there is no continuity. So it comes down to you always be able to impact on your product and your services. Because once that you do all this transformation, which is the whole journey, bear with me, it's a bit dry. When it's a whole journey, you will know that it's a vicious cycle. So once that you capture, you understand the customer's behavior, the customer journey is being taken care of, they feedback to you in terms of your product, you know you have a happy customer. Once you have a happy customer, it's a repeat order. It's quite straightforward in terms of business.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So employees, that's one I want to quickly touch on, the point of whether they get laid off. You did mention it doesn't mean that you can cut off your headcount. You can, if that is a strategy that the business wants to go for, you can actually do that. But then again, once you cut off, you go and use technology. Eventually your business grow. That means you need to go back to point one. You need to rehire because your business has grown from your transformation. So it's a good problem. And whether you will be efficient, for sure. We had a survey recently. So out of the survey, 67% of people said that with tool and from transformation, they find they're more efficient at work. 67% out of 100 is quite a lot. It's like 6 people out of 10. So we all want to use, I don't want to go and walk to one restaurant to see whether they're open. I want to call them first. I mean, that's an example.
Otherwise you can always, like, people always search online. I think everyone now has been like shopping online, like Lazada, Shopee, all this online store, right? So it's like really like that is already part of digital transformation, right? I mean, that is already a different industry that actually focusing on online, right?
Yeah, e-commerce. So a lot of people jump on e-commerce for sure. Yes.
Yeah. So even I think some of the retail stores has also jumped onto e-commerce as well, which it's also considering it's also considering as digital transformation, because it's a different revenue stream, because it's a total, like, people can't get to your store by walking or driving, because they may be like in the other part of the world, the other corner of the world as well. So, but they can still access to buy your product, right? So that is already we even now, whatever we are doing now, like having you online now to talk to everyone and to talk to me, it's super borderless, right? Imagine that we can have people that is from different part of the world to talk to us and to share their knowledge and skill sets over a video call, right? So what do you think about the future of digital transformation? What would be your take?
For this, I would probably say, from my perspective, I don't know whether you agree with me, the future for digital transformation is you and I and the rest. We decide, we make the change. It is really for us to be conscious, to be able to adopt, to be agile, to adapt, be flexible, to be able to see what's ongoing. The business model that you have implemented 20 years ago, if your business is maybe mature now, doesn't work now. The business model doesn't work. You have to evolve 10 years. The next 10 years is going to evolve again. Maybe in 5 years' time, it's different. Now we're doing video. We can do calls, we can buy, we can purchase, we can do a lot of interviews from there. But the next 5 years might change. Are we ready for it? So that is one thing. And for us to be able to, one key point would be customer experience. Because now customer is king. We all are victim of being a customer. So we do know that if any touch point is there's a lag, we will be unhappy. So we'll be like, I'm not going to give chance to this company anymore. So, so it's the same. Imagine that we are the business itself, and we have all the gaps. People are going to be unhappy. And the future for the next would be, it comes from a progressive corporate culture. Because if the corporate culture is stagnant, unable to move on, and they're just happy with maybe 20 years ago, like how an old dentist would rather have the clients just walk in and no booking and no appointment, it might work for them in a smaller town. But if you want to scale, if you want to move forward, the only way is really to consciously be progressive in that. Be fast to change if the strategy doesn't work, fall back to or change the strategy or adjust to it that work, because there's always a way that you can fix it. There's no stop, or there's no pause, I would say. Just do pulse check every now and then. I don't know, you agree?
Well, I think we are pretty much in sync, right? But it's just,
right?
I think it's different time. It will meant a bit different, right? I mean, different time, like maybe 3 years ago, it might not be suitable. It might be too early. Or maybe like last year, it might be a little bit okay. But now it's like, but because like I said, it's really much depending on, I think we can't dictate anything, but we can let everyone know that, hey, look, digital transformation is actually, it's just a matter of time. It's whether you want to start now or you want to start later. It's never too late, right? But if you start early, which means we have a saying that like, the earlier you fall, the faster you learn, right? So if and this and I think at this point of time, with the whole pandemic, right? I think if company were to really involve or get into digital transformation, and you still have a little bit of like an excuse to say, if your customer experience for clients are not, if you have some unsatisfied clients or any other maybe employees or anyone or stakeholders, at least everyone can say that, hey, look, we are all learning at this point of time. It's super new. We don't have a lot of time because we need to get our feet on the ground. We need to stay afloat. We need to keep the company moving. We need to thrive, but we need to change for now. Example, education institution, right? They were supposed to have about a 5 to 8 or 10 years of buffer to build and develop the whole e-learning solutions or platforms, for example, so that people don't need to travel to a specific country to study, right? And you can still get the same quality. But within 2 months, you need to basically restructure everything. And I think that is also something that has impacted them really badly. But like I said, this is the time. So I think back to our topic today, in terms of digital transformation for business or employees, I think end of the day, it's just give it a try. Baby steps. It's not necessary to go for a high-end solution, but it's a lot more on looking into what problem are we facing and what kind of problem that we want to solve first, which is the priority and stuff like that. I mean, do you agree on that? I mean, this is my personal opinion.
So in terms of waiting time, if you wait, that meant money is lost. So because there are a lot of things that you could do, you are right. First step is always the most difficult, but one step forward, it's better than standing still. So that is probably the best way to approach things, at least that you're stepping one step forward to start doing some research, to understand what is it that you want to change. So how do you want to move forward? Usually businesses will already have strategy, or if they don't, it can be alarming because they have a mindset that I want to have this vision, this mission, this goal. So if they move towards this, because it's ever changing every 3 years, maybe it's a yearly thing. So it can be something that they plan. It's no doubt ever changing. We all agree. I mean, we change as well. Like we all, like how we age. That's one.
Okay, very last question from me is that when 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 we talk about corporate innovation or digital transformation, um, would you think that it's just about the technology, or it's not just the technology, but it comes with like the culture part?
It's a combination for sure. Because as I did mention earlier, if it's only technology that you're embracing, but people are not receptive, they're doing it just because of the process, and they might have an error or reluctant, so it doesn't gel. So if they believe that it can actually help them, for sure it comes in the corporate culture of people's belief. Because when you have an example, why do people have general meetings? To embed into the culture again, to the people, to their employees, what do they try for, what do they want to, where they want to go in the next few years. So it's a balance, I would say. It cannot be one heavier than the other. Probably at some point, maybe during the first year, it probably be technology because you're implementing all, and then you're trying to catch up with the culture, the corporate culture. Then it can be a balance, because ultimately I think balance is key. That's from my personal opinion.
Wow. Thank you, Daphne. Thank you very much for your insights for tonight, the sharing.
Thank you.
We are on time, so we are actually we are 3 minutes earlier. So it's just
Okay.
like the pilot speeding on time, but we
Yes,
are
we
bit.
did.
But I think everything's on point. Everything's on point. Yeah.
There is a question that I see from Miko.
Yes, I was just about to go there. So
Please.
I will basically just read out the question. So instead of advocating for digital transformation in an organization top down, where it is hard to identify what kind of business processes should we transform next? Isn't it more effective if we invest in people by improving their digital skills and IT competency?
For sure. Remember, we talked about the reactive approach for implementation. This is exactly the reactive. It is because that they see in certain area that requires assistance to make it better in terms of the process, because maybe the engineers feel this process doesn't really work and I want to make it better. They can be the one that is starting the change. So for sure that is accurate, because from a reactive point of view, that is the way you should go forth. And to invest in digital skills, not everyone else the admin would probably have a basic IT skills, because everyone else would know how to run basic on the training on a tool or a software, for sure. So all of this has to be captured as part of the set skills. Do you remember the skill set that you actually mentioned? So the soft skills, that is the intangible, and then the tangible would be the one that's on digital skills and also IT competency. Yes.
If I may add in a little bit, I think like as from the question, right? I think there's also one part that I see that is quite important, which is actually the last question I asked you just now about the culture or technology, right? So I think when you talk about culture, it's also about mindset, right? So if the mindset don't change, I mean, if you bring in any best techie person or the best tech developer or anyone coming to your company, but the culture and the mindset is still the same, then it's not going to bring your company anywhere. I mean, this is just my personal point of view, but I think culture and mindset is really, really important. That's why we have this like company culture or organization culture, that how it brings a company forward. I mean, for example, like Google, Facebook,
Amazon.
Alibaba, Amazon, all these big companies, like and especially, I think the easiest to relate is like Apple, right? Like you need to have that kind of a mindset, right? And that's how you can go forward, right? So yeah,
Definitely
Miko,
true.
if that is what if we do answer your question, please just put in the chat, say uh, yes, or if you want us to further elaborate, we can basically look into a more elaboration for that. Deborah got a question. What is your opinion on retail outlets or shopping malls adopting digital transformation, and what changes will it make for the future of shopping or mall? Yeah.
Okay. What do I, the opinion of adopting digital transformation? I think for now, for malls, because we do know brick and mortar is a bit of a challenge, and with pandemic, and then people would be a bit more careful. But what we can see is how you can slowly adopt is start from a small change. That meant you can start with the frontliners, because if you see that frontliners are the one that is probably challenging to acquire, or it can be an example probably in terms of a tenant or the people around, or what is the context of in terms of mall. Then when you identify the problem area, like what Malcolm mentioned, you can actually see these probably are the first few that you can start on the transformation. Look at from one point when they first be in touch with your customer until the end journey, you are able to capture them, to tell them that, to say, okay, they can respond to you, say, I am happy with your mall. This is the end-to-end of transformation that you need. Anything that pause in between, there'll be a lapse. So you must ensure it's a one point, first touch point until the end, that they can respond to you and you are still in engagement with your customer. So that is pretty important. That there's no small gaps in between that we might miss it. About future of malls, Malcolm just said everybody shops on Lazada, but eventually it will be a bit slowed down. Maybe we don't know, because we already see there's a trend of retail that's going down, because everybody could buy in bulk and return in bulk because they can do it in the comfort of the home. So that might be a bit of challenge. So you need to first identify maybe the area that you're at, what are the things that interest people most, and what are the things that cannot be replaced by doing e-commerce. Example, food. You want it served hot, not in a porcelain paper or something. These are the things that are probably key. It can be more on F&B outlets. It can be something else. It can be something more in services. So it has to be a blend and a mix itself. Shopping malls, maybe in Asia, it will work because of climate. Everybody wants to stay out, and it's so complex in the city, and they want to be in the mall because it's air conditioned. But in Europe, it's a little bit more different probably. People like to go outside, sit at the park, enjoy the fresh air. And we really do see there's a big trend in Asia to have massive malls, including in the UAE.
It comes it also comes into the part we talk about culture as well, right? Culture plays a big role basically. So in terms of shopping and everything, I really think that, like what I mentioned earlier in terms of online store, e-commerce, that is basically allowing business owners to earn more. It's like a different revenue stream, because now, like if because of technology, if you don't leverage on technology, you're not able to make extra money, right? Because if you sit in your shop, because your employees or your staff can only go around to promote within the shopping mall or the housing area, or the customer can only buy things that is just driving distance, right? But
Yeah.
if I want something from somewhere that's so far away, but I love it so much, now it's not a problem anymore. You don't need to take a flight all the way there to bring it back. But it's so convenient that, so it's from a business owner point of view. If I'm standing here, my business will be this much. But if I explore onto e-commerce or online store, I will open a different portal, a different door that some of my items can be sold. A very quick example, like a friend of mine is very into e-commerce. So how she got into e-commerce is because of someone asked her, "Hey, I got all this old." Someone asked her, "I'm looking for this kind of like a miniature car that's from Shell, but it's no longer available." So my friend actually looked for someone else and who say, "Hey, I got a lot of this stock. So how are you going? I want to clear stock." So there are some collectors out there who want to collect that, right? So basically, you're also helping people to clear some stock out, and you're also helping some people to look for what they want. So it's just a different business opportunity end of the day by leveraging on technology. So I think with that question in terms of shopping malls, I mean, we need to have that balance, and also it's a culture thing as well in Asia as well. Wow. Thank you, Deborah, for asking that question, and thank you, Daphne, for answering. Um, and we have one more question here. You talk about it. You talk about it being a journey. If a company decides to be proactive, what do you need to watch out for along the way? What problems have you seen businesses encounter?
Being proactive, that meant there will be team that best practices we have seen would be to identify champions from every department, every function, because you want the whole company to embrace it as one direction. So the only problem probably be resistance, because people are not comfortable in doing something like to shorten the process, to do things manually, to do things from manual to digital, maybe to have the task be removed. They would feel maybe I'm incompetent, or am I losing my job next day? So these are the things probably is just the soft set of skills. But overall, that we have seen quite a lot of transformation and companies actually go into this journey itself. The only problem is whether you can catch up with the technology or the change or consumer behavior, consumer expectation. That is the thing that we have to catch up. That's probably the most difficult to gauge, because in 20 seconds, we are able to call somebody to make reservations and go to the spot. So it's quite straightforward. So that is maybe major, but whether that will be the key point, the business strategy of being proactive, coming back to your company again. You have to then predefine what is important and remember to do pulse check. Better to do a 3-month or a 6-month pulse check to see how your team is performing. Because you do know that sometimes after 3 months, this strategy doesn't work, you need to change it. You cannot go through anymore, because you'll be wasting your time if you are just putting your head on the wall. You know this strategy of transformation or this process doesn't work, change it. Have to be adaptive and agile, because Malcolm would agree being agile, it's key.
I think this is because that the industry that we're involved, because of we are involved in the whole startup ecosystem, right? So and I think because when we talk about startups, it's actually business that has automation and able to scale super fast, and it has to be tech enabled, right? So startups are really like, we are always talking about lean, being lean. So which means that the lean methodology, like in a company, when you start this any tech business, you only have 2-3 people or 4 people, that's it. And that also have to be agile as well. You're able to adapt, like when if it's not moving right, change, identify the problem, change, constant.
Yes.
It's constant, kind of like a test and error. If this doesn't work, change. If this doesn't work, change. So in our industry, we also very frequently hear the word pivot. So pivot is also the word that we are always constantly, like literally, like we have to have pivoting, a pivot word in us. Like if this doesn't work, pivot. It doesn't work, pivot, change, right? So I think that's why a lot of traditional businesses, or a lot of business that's being managed in a traditional way, it's because of, don't rock the boat, because we are smooth sailing now. Okay, so nothing bad happened. We are earning. It's okay, but but I want to earn more, but we struggle, we can't. So it's okay, we just stay where we are, right? So that is always that part about, we talk about the take the first step, right? And able to, let's give it a try, because it doesn't, when you say give it a try, you need to really do calculated risk. You need to really, but what we are saying here is that a lot of time, a lot of business owners, they don't look into what problem are they actually solving. So sometimes when you think that, oh, I want to be in a trend of digital transformation, so I just buy solutions, I adopt this different kind of techy stuff, and I am or creating a mobile application which costs a lot of money, but you don't even you don't actually need a mobile application, right? But that's the thing. So going through digital transformation is not about adopting or you must have a mobile application, because a lot of things you don't need mobile application. You can just a web base that can optimize, as simple as like using social media, for example, for some small medium businesses, like really small businesses like retail. You have a Facebook page, you have WhatsApp, for example, and now we have a WhatsApp business that you can have chatbots. So customer experience, right? You talk about customer experience. So we talk about how you can engage customers and answering questions that they can while you are asleep. Maybe you have customers that's from different part of the world, right? So I think automation, as simple as chatbots, that is already a kind, like you don't need a single person to be there to constantly answering questions on Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp Business.
That comes with automation, because you
That
have the
comes with
Autobot.
automation. Yeah, the chatbots, right?
So, so the Autobot, I personally dislike Autobot because they cannot answer to the human aspect. No way they will be able to decipher what I want to ask. Always give me the wrong knowledge-based article. Always. That it cannot replace human.
But again, it's how, like, I mean, what you say is not wrong. It's true, entirely true. But again, that's when people need to understand how it is function, right? So you need
for their industry.
For your industry, right? For whatever industry you're using, right? So so that is something whereby what I mentioned just now, that it's not adopting something that you feel is cool and it's a trend now and you adopt it, but looking into what problem exactly it can help you solve. That is more important. It doesn't mean that having a chatbot, you don't need to reply any more other question, any kind of a message, right? But having a chatbot is to eliminate some of the frequently asked questions that people will always ask. And that will help the customer to stay on your brand or stay on your outlet online, to say, I'm going to be your loyal customer because it's convenient for me. The customer experience is different. It's engaged. There's engagement between the brand and me as well. So then I will actually come back and to buy from you again. I mean, this is just another topic, guys. Sorry. We are a bit off topic, but this is somehow rather is kind of like an interrelated. No matter how we go around, it will come back to the same. So I hope we answer your question, Miko. The next question is from Lorraine. How do you see the aspect of human touch in the era of business digitalization? Do you have any practical suggestions to help to balance both?
Human touch in digitalization is definitely the 50% of it. We need the tool, yes, in automation to do the mundane things, but at the same time, we still have the manpower to, when you do a digital process, you still need the manpower to actually do it from one task to the other. So I'll give you an example of maybe on the front end, you will have your BD, a business development team, human, a lot of things has been filtered, but once they are done with the human touch, they probably catch the deals, they move it next to admin. In terms of admin itself, it doesn't mean that they're probably just taking off one or two tasks out of the human, not complete eliminate of human, but it's only removing the mundane tasks. You still need the human to be able to say, okay, I can read this now, because we can depend on AI, but they are not 100% human brain. Human brain is amazing. You still have the human touch to be able to decipher, oh, my colleague has actually have this deal. I need to then process it. It's automatically coming into me. I know where it goes. Automatically, it will go directly to the right folder. All I need to do is say, okay, click the follow-up and everything else. So basically, I don't see a human touch completely out of digitalization. Sorry. From here, it will only enhance and give us more time. So for practical suggestions to balance both, I think it always comes to the strategy of businesses that they must know the importance of both sides. For any transformation itself, I think we also mentioned that even if you implement a tool now, for sure the heavy or the enhancement will probably be more on the tool because it's new and you need everybody to adopt to it. So the less maybe pressure or attention to the human. Eventually, when this gets a bit mature in terms of the tool or the what things that you are implementing for your team, you will then need to level up your culture to make them understand we are implementing this now and everybody have to come on board to the ship. Same ship and we sail. And you run with it. So it's a 50-50. We can probably talk about that in terms of practical suggestions and see what can actually be done. Need to talk with the top management. So from the specific company.
It's just I think there's one example would be like, for example, like you heard of Zero, right? Zero, which is the accounting accounting
purely on invoicing.
Yeah. So that is also another example. Like from the very beginning, you still need an accountant to help you to really think and decide, okay, how I want to use this solution. Then you have to program it, like plan it as per how the whole process and everything, and then you implement it. You still need that human person there as well. No matter how, but it will help 2 or 3 of your other finance personnel that they do not need to go through the day-to-day kind of repeated a task, but everything is all there, and they can focus on other things, right? So that's where you can look into other areas of new business opportunity as well.
Yeah. Yes.
I think I don't know whether did we answer one of the questions from Miko. Digital transformation is an ongoing process rather than an endpoint. How can a company know when it's enough for now and when should the next change comes? Example, any guidelines?
For sure, it is not an endpoint. Whether it's enough for now, it comes down to the KPI set by the company. So if you were to say that you are doing a transformation with a process and a timeline plan, you always have KPI. So the KPI can be measurable in terms of monetary or non-monetary. So we want to see the performance of individual. By then, every company usually have a 6 months which is performance index. They want to see how they work. It can be 6 months or it can be 3 months. So from there, for sure, you can do the pulse check and see whether is it good? Did you meet the KPI or something that's lapsed? When it's not enough to meet the KPI, how can you actually move to the next one? That meant to close the gap. So basically, guidelines, it really depends on the KPI set beforehand. I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly unless you'd be able to give a use case or exactly how would it be in your industry. And then probably we can, that's why people do brainstorming. Like you pick top leaders or one team member from each department to then see what are the processes that can be better. What are the things it's required now? Is it enough? Are we meeting what we want to do? Do we want to do better? So it's either you're comfortable where you are or you want to move a little bit further and to run a little bit faster in your marathon. So I don't know whether that answers the question in terms of I didn't give the guideline because it really entirely depends on the industry that you're in and the setting upon from the direction that you want to have in terms of your company. Yeah.
I think there's also some, like, if some of you are looking into some of these areas, I mean, we are all learning, we're all constantly learning and growing in this industry, in this area as well. So I think there's a few you can find it online. Like, you can look into like what is lean methodology is all about. You can also look into agile. Agile, what is agile is all about, and from there I think there are some links that is actually some case studies. They are able to actually look into some of these areas as well if you're looking at some of the guidelines or case studies. But definitely, I think maybe I can look into some of these, and I'll send an email to all of you on the newsletter on some of the areas that we're talking about tonight. Some of the questions that if we can share with you some related case studies, or maybe some of our network that our friends who are already already went through it, so we might able to get some of those links to be shared on our newsletter. So I think all of you have already registered on our website, which is startupgrind.com/Sarawak. You can join the mailing list, then we can send you a newsletter on that part as well. And yes, thank you very much for all the questions that comes in for Daphne. And again, thank you, Daphne, for sharing all your insights and your personal opinion as well. Just a very quick one. I got this rapid fire. So it's a different section of the event for tonight. So we call rapid fire. It's about quite a few simple questions that we just want you to, because we have all these very intense, maybe some quite a deep kind of a conversation over more than 15 minutes. So we want to have a little bit of a breather before we wrap up, so we can have a nice a good evening, right? So very simple. One question: must read book about digital transformation. Is there any specific book that you recommend that is actually a must read for digital transformation?
Not on books, but sites that you could go to. So there are a lot of sites that, because a book can, you can read, but I don't do books on digital transformation because it moves so fast. It changes so fast. By the time it prints, it's probably already a year. But in terms of the trend that's changing, it's ever changing every minute or the next month. So I would recommend probably on sites that you go for. Mashable is one. You can go for Ghana to see what they write, and in terms of the research, it's a lot of surveys. Go to McKinsey, because McKinsey does a lot of research and data, so you can see all of that as well. One more is the CIO, the CIO.com. These are the information that you want to gauge. These are probably personal perspective and how they see change. A lot of information and everything else from there. But also remember, there's some friendly articles. It's from OTRS magazine. So we have a blog also, so you can read from there. There's a lot of good articles out there for you to feed onto and plan ahead, do more research for what you want to do for your business or for your strategy, even for your own department. As simple as that. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So the next question is best place to relax your mind.
For me, the best place.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. This is you caught me by surprise.
It's actually a surprise question.
I would say it's maybe on a sun lounger and do nothing under the sun or somewhere, just sun tanning maybe.
So
yes, and also relax to run and do my favorite sports.
Right. Okay. So somewhere like nature, open space, right?
Yeah, I like the outdoors. Yes.
Okay. The next one. Do you believe in luck?
Yes and no. I believe in luck. I also believe in fate, and I also have faith. faith, and luck. Everything that's from the universe, we accept.
Right. So the next question, last question, used app on your smartphone?
Most used app.
Yeah.
Good one. I think it's WhatsApp. Definitely WhatsApp. Well, they should pay me for marketing them. I use WhatsApp a lot.
All right. Okay. So that's all from us for tonight. Thank you very much, Daphne, for being here with us, and also all the audience that's spending time with us.